startup journey is a journey and a fight against yourself.
With capital comes speed. You can hire a team. If you build everything yourself, you're just going to be too slow. I'm looking for purpose companions.
This planet is a point in a big universe, so don't take yourself so serious.
One thing that I will say, you have to plan for scale.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode.
To the second episode.
Welcome to
the fourth episode
of The Founder Story. I talk to startups every day with founders, and one thing they mention is that they feel like sometimes like lone warriors.
They think, oh, you know, we're pretty good in one thing, but we've heard from other founders they're good in another thing. We would love to exchange with them. So clearly there's a need for this community.
We have a lot of founders here who have built their company on a digital-first vision.
My name is Federico.
My name is Gilda.
I'm Pierre. I'm the founder of Happy Meter.
In my life, I founded 4 different companies.
Everyone here is coming with the idea that they want to improve, to make a change.
You do have real founder, you have company serving them, you have people from Google.
It's special because we have different point of views of the solutions you can apply to the problems.
Yeah, we will definitely keep working on new ideas and how can we make this format even better, even bigger, and even more beneficial for everyone involved.
The venue is excellent. The food is excellent, and the team of Google excellent as well.
I love coming here.
I can't wait to attend the next one.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome to the 7th episode of The Founder Story here at Google. Welcome. Thank you. It is a pleasure for us to have you all here tonight. We hope you got some drinks outside before, some water, maybe even some snacks. And while we're welcoming the last few comings in here, it is really a pleasure again to host you all here in this event, in the Founder Story, where we bring founders together to really build a community and tackle mutual challenges together through their stories. And we have some returning guests here, as I can see. And for those who are here, you probably might know what's going to come next. I heard someone already screaming that. And in fact, we always start with a selfie, because we're digital native people here, right? We like to take selfies. And later on, I'm not going to just look at the selfie by myself. I'm actually going to post it because I want to share my impressions and share my feedback also with you, what I've taken away from today's panel discussion by using the hashtag #TheFounderStoryGCP. So we're all going to encourage you to do the same, because we hopefully will bring you a lot of insights, a lot of discussions, a lot of debates, points of your business where you see and feel that you might have encountered yourself at some point, and that you heard from the founders today how they solved it. And please share your impressions, give us your feedback, and because, as you can see, it is a vibrant community from all the previous sessions, and we cannot thank you all more for being so active in this community and be so open and sometimes even vulnerable to share what you currently struggle with and how you can overcome that. Because this is what the Founder Story is for, is to bring you a community from founders to founders, where we talk about specific problems, specific challenges in their day-to-day life as a founder in their companies. And we couldn't do that without our collaborators, our partners here. And shout out again to all the logos you can see here. It was Firefly, F10, Red Alpine, Verve, Growth Bay, and female founders, and many more, who all of them tackle the same challenges every day and try to serve you founders to make you more successful in your journey out there. And you can see here the great lineup we had for this episode, for season 1, with all the founders here. They couldn't be more different, the challenges as well as the people, their background, their companies, what they do. And we are very excited to see this community growing here from Switzerland, but also tackling international challenges. The topic we're going to be talking about is one topic we have never covered in any other episode before, which is marketing. A tool set, a skill, a superpower, often underrated when founders start their journeys. Because people tend to focus on sales, people, funding, product a lot, and they will say, look, once we figure that all out, we start crafting our marketing messages. Today, however, I'm glad to have founders joining us on stage who challenged that idea and said, no, marketing as a superpower should start from day one when we start our company. And we will tell you later why. So marketing, if we look back in the early days, had a very simple role. It was here to inform you about their price, about their feature, and sometimes even with a lengthy instructions how to use their product. And as it is still important today to do that as marketeers, marketing people and founders have a great superpower to use that to push the ability in a next level. So for those who don't know what this little red guidebook is, it's actually the Michelin guide, where it rates restaurants on the highest levels of quality, giving it between 1 to 3 stars, telling you how worthy it is, whether worth a stop, a detour, or even a special trip. But why would a car tire manufacturer come out with a booklet to evaluate restaurants on their quality, on their experience and everything? Well, the intention of that booklet originally literally was to get you to drive an extra mile, in hoping so driving a little bit more and maybe in the end coming back to use a Michelin tire. But marketing today is not only there to inspire us, to inform us, to maybe entertain us. Marketing as we know it today has a much larger responsibility. Every company we interact with, buy from, get content from, we demand that they will tell us how they represent our values. So marketing has become a vehicle of making movement makers. For example, when we look at companies, a lot of the companies, we hold them accountable for how they fulfill the 17 SDG goals in order to make this world a better place even after our lifetime, because we want the world to be sustainable. I'm Remarkable, a workshop format started just by a couple of Googlers with the intention to give people a voice of underrepresented groups. This movement has taken the industry and beyond like a wildfire. I'm Remarkable as a workshop now is being held in every different companies, from big corporations to small startups, because people deserve to have a clear voice when they're underrepresented. And then lastly, how counterintuitive is it from a clothing manufacturer to tell you in their ads, don't buy our jacket? Because in Patagonia's mission statement, it is part of their values that the world will become more sustainable, so they encourage you through their ad. Once again, they inform you, but they encourage you that you should reuse, repair, or reduce your consumption behavior, because there's only one planet for us. And I'm very proud today that we have exactly founders that and leaders of the startups who not only use marketing as a tool to inform you, but exactly to bring their values and how they represent us as consumers today to the market. And before we start with our panel discussion in a few minutes, what we always heard in the past is sometimes there's some discussion and people were like, oh my God, this was exactly what I experienced, or this challenge was exactly what we had last week, and they would like to ask more questions, they would interact. And as you look around the room, it's quite big today, and it will be quite hard for everyone to jump in all the time. So this is why we have prepared a little QR code here, so that you have the chance, whenever you see something, hear something, to immediately raise a question, post it in there, so that later when we finish with the panel discussion, we can refer back to it. And you can also upvote other people's questions, because most likely you have like-minded people here in this room today. And we will then get onto those questions. For those who have a little bit of a poor internet connection here in this room, because it's quite shielded, you can also pull up your Wi-Fi and sign in into the Google Guest Wi-Fi, so that you can connect to this QR code. I give you a few minutes before we get started. So wonderful. So I hope you all have found the tool. You are arrived at Mentimeter, because keep that tool open. So again, once you see something where you want to ask and raise your question on, please feel free to post it, upvote other people's. The ones with the most votes, we will address it to the founders immediately. So let's start with our panelists today. Angela is the CMO of the fintech company Innova, and you might have heard about them lately because they have been in the Swiss news quite a few times and also international news a lot of time. Before joining Innova, Angela was leading the marketing team internationally for OpenTable. For those who don't know OpenTable, it is the global leading platform for booking a seat in a restaurant. So anyone who has ever done that digitally might know OpenTable or has even done so before. So before we bring the panelists on stage, usually we want to show a little bit of a human part of them as well, because they all come with big titles, big dreams, big visions, but they're also humans in their private life. And we like to share a little bit, but a few fun facts. In fact, there might be a fact, or there might be just a straight out lie, and we want you all to guess whether that could be a truth about Angela or maybe something we just made up. So Angela has told us in the panelist briefing, and I want you all to vote later if this is going to be true, that the reason why she joined OpenTable was because she has managed to eat in every Michelin star restaurant here in Zurich. And while doing so, it was such an agonizing journey to find a table, because obviously they're very popular. That's why she joined OpenTable to really revolutionize the digitalization of booking tables. So hands up who thinks this is actually a true fact about Angela, and this is why she joined OpenTable. Okay, yeah, I tried to look into the audience. There's a few hands. People are looking into Angela, seeing what she's going to be doing, but she's not going to give it away. Well, in fact, it's something we just made up. I think with the money to eat in all the Michelin star, it's better off to invest it into a startup and to build yourself. It's definitely more sustainable. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Angela Altvater. So, my next guest, Andreas. Andreas is one of the founding members of the SaaS company called Beekeeper. One you have seen definitely a lot of times when you're in the startup scene, because they're very, very successful. I think it's fair to say that. They recently raised the latest funding round with a Series C, giving them a total investment amount of, I think, $100 million over their lifetime. So a very successful startup, we could definitely say that. To Andreas, fun fact, he has been a founder all the way through his core when he was younger already. And as we all know, founders, they do a lot of experiments, they try a lot of things. So Andreas actually created one of the first websites to sell refurbished cell phones in 2001. And his first employee was actually his mother. So hands up who thinks this is actually true. This is a typical founder story. Or you think this is so crazy, I would never hire my own mother to create my own startup. But yeah, I see a lot of hands being raised. So Andreas, this is actually good news to you. People believe that this is possible to create a startup with your own mother. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Andreas Slotosch. So, to my next guest, Torge. You might have seen their products already when you came here earlier today from the main station to here, or even if you walk around Europa, and later we're going to learn more about what their mission is. So as we are like in the likes of talking about gastronomy, Torge actually had an interesting job. So Torge is from Germany, and for those who know the Oktoberfest, you know it's probably one of the biggest events, or if not the biggest events of people gathering in the world. And a lot of those tents, they're not just here to drinking beer. Sometimes there's a lot of VIP tents there as well, and sometimes there's actually even VVIP tents. So really the highest caliber of people are gathering there, exchanging. And Torge, with absolutely zero gastronomic experience, was given that job for 2 years consecutively to lead that tent and manage the whole tent there over a few days, where it's very, very intense with the most people gathering there. So hands up who you think Torge is also in the business of gastronomy before he has founded Kooky, or maybe that's something because you've been to Oktoberfest, you say, no, this is way too crazy, no founder would ever do that? Oh, I don't see a lot of hands raising. Well, Torge, I don't know how many people have been actually in that tent, but it is actually true. So he did manage 2 years consecutively, very successfully, that tent. And this is a great example that founders do all sorts of stuff sometimes. And with the right mindset, with the right passion, they can do even something out of their skill set very successfully. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Torge Barkholtz. So thank you all very much for joining us tonight, especially in this very last episode of The Founder Story, and taking time out of your busy schedule. You even flew in from abroad, so we know that you have a lot more on your plate than just speaking here in front of this audience. But before we kick off, Angela, may you give us a few sentences about what Innova does, and we're later going to continue through the round.
Sure. So it's called Innova Impact Investing, and Innova stands for Invest in Your Values. And what we do is we offer a sustainable investing platform. And what customers can do is they basically come to our website and they can select from 24 different impact topics, the ones that they care about the most. So that can span from anything: I want to invest in plant-based companies, I want to invest in gender equity, in renewable energies. And we create on the spot through our personal impact engine, our PI technology, a personalized impact portfolio for those people, and then they can invest in it. And that's really the core of what we offer. And when we think about kind of where we see the product going in the future, is to think more about impact investing and an activist service, where we're giving shareholders the option to really vote with the shares that they have at the company's AGMs and to really influence what those companies do in order to really get more of an impact out of them and to really build a better and a greener tomorrow.
Thank you very much. And we're going to dive way more into the impact investment and what you value care. But Andreas, Beekeeper, I don't know how often you get the joke about honey and hives, but please tell us a little bit about what Beekeeper does.
Yeah, usually people read more Barkeeper, so it's more about beer and less about bees. But I just looked it up before the session today. Android was introduced 15 years ago, and today everybody in this room has at least one smartphone. And when you go into a retail shop, when you go into a manufacturing plant, most of the people still using pen and paper to communicate, to track their tasks, to receive information, to fill out a form. And that's what we're addressing with Beekeeper. So really helping the frontline to connect better with the company, to receive the information when they need the information, to give them tools to make their lives easier and more productive. And we do this for organizations in retail, manufacturing, construction, and many other frontline industries, and founded the company about 10 years ago. Today we are 200 people, active in 5 different markets, and have users in 150 countries.
Thank you very much. I love the impact right there, because it's tempting for us to feel whoever has a laptop, has a phone, is connected and can do their work. But there's a huge part of the population who has jobs, who don't have access or don't need access to such devices, but yet staying informed is a very fundamental but impactful change you're going to bring to the market. We're going to go right into that later on. But Torge, tell us about cookies. So do we have honey? Do we have food, cookies here? Tell us about what are you actually doing with cookie?
Yes, with Cookie, we're tackling the disposable food packaging market, meaning we are inventing a return infrastructure in cities and in the communities to actually adapt the mentality of using a single-use food packaging like a coffee cup or something else, and then bringing it into the digitalization, and that you can use reusable as easy as disposables. Mm-hmm. So our company is just recently founded, just 14 months ago, and working together with great companies already to really have an impact to make this in the DACH region 3.5 billion coffee-to-go cups annually. to get rid of them. So that's a huge market coming into our way.
Yes, and I like already that we have some examples here. So for those who haven't seen that before, definitely give it a try. I tried it for the first time, I have to admit, a couple days back, and it was really just so simple. It as simple as ordering a coffee. So I hope we're not gonna talk about the product too much, but like I hope really like you are gonna give it a bit of a test. So when we look back for the different pillars we saw before, one of the earliest or simplest form of marketing is really to inform the customers, right? What you're doing, what products you have, and we heard that in previous episode. It was not always a straightforward product when you first launched it. Founders have to go through a lot of iteration until they get there. So I'd like to address that question to you first, Andreas, because Beekeeper hasn't always been the tool as you sell it today, and we previously talked about it, you have to go through different journeys to get there. So can you tell us a few milestones what Beekeeper was and what it is today?
Yeah, when we launched the company, it had a different name. It was called Blicklick, and Blicklick was a dating platform for students. So very different from what we do today. It was about communication, but in a very different context. And I think that the challenge was that it was not really working. So we pivoted to something else. So we turned the dating app into a general platform for students, and that was kind of a success. So it was one of the most active students communities here in Zurich called Spokel. So we built a product with high engagement, high usage, but the challenge was to turn this into a business. And if you have no idea what you do with your business, you add ads to your business. I think Google was successful, but we weren't successful. And I think one of the benefits of running ads on your platform was that we got in contact with a lot of other businesses. And what we started doing is to pitch this platform as a platform on one side for customers, so to have your customer community for your company. And we also pitched Beekeeper as a platform for companies to connect their employees. And we did a lot of called outbound, brute force, reached out to companies. We had a lot of meetings. And with one use case, we had success. In the other case, we just had a lot of meetings. And I think that's something you should be aware of as a startup. People or companies like to talk to startups because it's innovation, it's refreshing, but in many cases, they don't buy. And with the internal comms, with the use case for frontline or for employees, we had success. We had some first pilots. And then at some point, we had a really interesting discussion in the founders team because we had some success, some first cases with the internal comms case. And then with the other use case, we didn't have any success, but one potential big customer. So one of the bigger corporations here in Switzerland said, yeah, we are thinking about this customer community case, and we might even start an RFP process, and we will invite you. Do you want to join? And we had this discussion and said, there's one customer on one side with a lot of potential, and then we have maybe smaller customers, but more of them on the other side. And we said, let's really focus on one thing that is repeatable, that is working. And we decided to really go for this internal comms case, and I think was the right thing. We had this discussion about, I think, 8 years ago. So definitely helped to focus. So I think what I learned from this is it's interesting what you can do with different positioning. We had this students platform, so it was the same product. We pitched as a customer community on one side, and on the other side as a platform for employees. And just by picking the right messaging, the right positioning, we really were able to scale the business.
Yeah, I really liked to start it off with that story because like a lot of founders, and we remember from the episode about product founders where they shared the story how gut-wrenching it was to pivot and change the direction of your company, of your product you have built and spent so much time building. But then exactly with the marketing tool, then it really helps you then craft the messaging out there once you have pivoted that and then to educate, create the market. So a question then to Torge and Angela, both of you, how much have the customer feedback help you craft your message and iterate
the direction and of your company? So maybe we start with you, Andrea.
Yeah, I mean, we very actively look for customer feedback, and it's something where like our marketing collaborates very, very closely actually with our product team as well as with our customer success team. And so what that looks like at the moment, for example, is that we have different product squads that focus on different product initiatives. And in those, we have a marketing person who actually sits in with the user tests and helps craft the product together with the product team, which has been a huge game changer for us because it really eliminates this like product has built something, now marketing go market it. And then marketing goes, oh, how do I market this? Like, here are the 5 issues I see with it. So that's been really good. And the other thing that we do is we have an excellent customer success team in-house. And so they're also they report into the marketing organization now. And so that also makes the ways between those departments are just very, very small / non-existent. And so we get a lot of feedback from that team about what customers are saying about us, but we also proactively go out to customers every single week and we have conversations with them and we test things and we ask them and we show them stuff and we get feedback. And honestly, it's been quite remarkable. You often don't even have to ask. Sometimes it feels quite daunting. Oh, I have to ask all these people. And it's like, no, you ask kind of 2 or 3 and they say the same thing. And then you can iterate again and then you take it back out to the customer. So that's been super successful.
So you definitely underline the point of marketing being representative of the voice of the consumer and not just someone tells you what you got to do, but like really feeling heard by what you have to say.
Yeah, I mean, I think our job as marketers is to understand what the customer needs are and then, yes, market towards those, but also educate the organization about what those needs are so that everybody else can kind of get in line with what they are and then deliver against them. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. When we move it over then to the coffee cup business, if I might say, I know from a previous conversation, you did say you're not a plastic company, you're actually a tech company. And I like what you mentioned before, that you just said coffee cup as an example, because your vision and mission is definitely another one. But you mentioned before 3.5 billion cups, right? So how hard was it then to come and say, let's have reusable cups? And how was the feedback there for you when you first pitched the product then?
Yes, so like you said, we are not a plastic cup company. We are an infrastructure company based on a strong tech team. Our tech team is in Berlin, for example, which built up, for example, a micromobility company, a scooter company. So they know a lot about IoT. They know a lot about geo-fencing and geo-targeting. So it's all coming from our own experience. And that's why we have a completely different approach. From our perspective, disposables is a no-go nowadays, but the existing analog systems are not the way to go. Even though when you have to go back to the shop to return your cup there, this is not handy because you don't want to have an additional effort to return your cup because you just consumed. This is the fact from the consumer. You just consume something, so you don't want to go into a shop again, standing in line to return it. And from the partner's perspective, it's you don't want to have somebody in your line to return a cup, a dirty cup, and hand out a worst case cash, and then you have to wash it. In the meantime, you could actually make more revenue. So you're losing customers, you're losing revenues. So we tackled this idea. We had to look at the market and say nobody's tackling this infrastructure market. So that's why we are also inviting the reusable systems on the market. Analogs, we have a great system here. We have a couple of them in Germany. We invite them to also return their cups and bowls and everything into our system. So this is what we see is actually, you talked about the learnings and the market on the marketing side. We have no problem on the partner side. We have an over demand. We cannot. We have so many requests from partners, from big companies, that we cannot handle it with our small team. On the consumer side, it's really a little bit different because you have the single-use cup standing there and people are grabbing the single-use cup because it's so easy. So that's why we are focusing on added value and put them onto our platform, into our smart food packaging to make it more interesting to use reusables.
That sounds just so simple and easy. And I think a lot of founders out there would be like, okay, yeah, just, and that's the reason why we came together right here, is you see a problem, you see a market, and you think like, gosh, there has to be a better way to tackle it. Let's do that, right? And the echo speaks for the success and speaks also for the need, right? But what we often also want to dive into is, you all are subject matter experts in your fields, but there's common mistakes sometimes people do, or because you heard it from people, got advice. So I want to cover that a little bit now. What are a few advices or one advice you got where you say, this is what you have to do from a market perspective? You tried it and it was absolutely a disaster. And it did not work whatsoever for your company, even though everyone was saying it.
How much time do we have? just asking for a friend. So.
I think we tried that over 7 episodes, so if we're going to stay a couple more months. So if you can think of an example where you can also share with, because we have founders here in the audience who maybe don't see marketing as a superpower, but they try to tackle it in the right way. And they hear all these comments or feedback, right? And what are things you hear very often giving as an advice, and you've tried it, and it didn't work out as it should be?
So maybe if I could start with a former startup I was co-founding of, because with Kooky we're doing everything completely right, and it was how are we doing micromobility? So we have to work closely together with an air carrier. So we have to print vouchers on the back of flight tickets because it's so smart, because they're coming into the city and then they want to ride a scooter. Huge failure. So that was a nice idea, but it was not thought through to the end, because micromobility, mobility is not mobility. You have to completely figure out or see what are the needs of the users, and then make a tailor-made package for them. Not just say, okay, it's mobility, it needs to work, and it costs us so much money, and it was worth it. So lesson learned, never do again. So do your homework.
Do your homework. What about you, Andreas?
Yeah, I can know. Next, I might have 2 examples. So one is that you can't just copy what other companies are doing. So you can't do kind of the same channel mix. Really understand your audience. I mentioned before that we're targeting frontline organizations. So a lot of them are very traditional. So maybe also you have to include some offline channels into your channel mix. So really understand your audience. For me, it worked quite well when I went to events and talked to potential customers, ask them which magazines are you reading, what are the communities, to really understand kind of where you can reach them, and not just copy what other companies are doing. I think that's a mistake you can do. And then also, don't be different just to be different. I think first it's important that people really understand what you do, and then you can talk about how you can solve their problems better, but don't start with explaining why you're different and forget kind of to explain what you do.
What you do great as well. Yeah, so find your sweet spot. Yeah. What are some of your learnings, Angela?
Yeah, I think it's probably more of the same. But definitely some marketing tactics that were highly recommended and that we then tried with lots of budget that just completely bombed out. I think the learning is and really it shouldn't be a learning. Like I feel like I knew that at the time, but like I didn't listen to myself. So maybe that's the first learning. And the second learning is, of course, like test and learn. So sure, it's a great idea. What's the smallest, cheapest test that you can run to see whether or not that idea works? And then if it works, you scale it, rather than like going all in because, I don't know, 3 people whose opinion you respect said that you should do it.
So do your homework. know what you're good at, but also know what you don't push to be different for the sake of being different, because that's tempting to do as a marketeer. But then also listen to your gut feeling, but give yourself the room to test and iterate to get there. Just looking at the time, and time is flying and really running out, but I want to shift gears a little bit because now we learned, and later I hope we're going to have more conversation in the foods and drinks as well about what failures people have done and how to overcome it. That should be just a teaser, but shifting gears, and this is something really close to my heart as well, the purpose we're going to all bring out with the companies we're doing, right? Because you're not just a robo-advisor platform. Beekeeper is not just a communication tool, and kooky is definitely not just a coffee cup company, right? You all pursue a bigger vision, bigger mission as well. So how does the feedback from your customer, can you share some feedback where it really lifted you up, where you say, this is helping us to go to the next stage? Messages you heard from your customer, you didn't expect it that way as leaders of your company, because you always try to incrementally improve, but sometimes you hear this one feedback, you're like, wow, we really moved people. So I guess start with Andreas.
Yeah, so at Innova, I think we're really fortunate to get a lot of very positive customer feedback, and we have a really active community of people who are constantly in touch with us. And so, yeah, this year we ran an initiative with BMW, and we basically asked our community of shareholders whether or not they wanted to vote to support a change at BMW. And what we asked, what we put forward as a shareholder resolution was a new candidate to the supervisory board at BMW that had more e-mobility expertise. And that's something that we thought BMW was missing. And so that was a really new thing that we did. And people reacted really, really positively towards that. I actually just, even today, read a quote from a customer who said that's exactly the right stuff to do. And that's when you kind of know that you're sort of hitting the sweet spot with what people want. And of course, it also shows that we're able to have a meaningful impact, which is really what we're all about.
Yeah, I think also we are lucky because we don't just have customers or users, we also have a lot of fans. That's great. And a couple of weeks ago, we hosted a bigger virtual event. And part of the event was also what we call a Frontline Hero Award. So we asked our customers to nominate users that they think they deserve an award. And it was really touching to listen to the nominees. One person even wrote a poem about how Beekeeper is improving her life. That was impressive. And it's really showing that with Beekeeper, we can change lives. You're not just improving something by 10%, but we really have an impact. We're connecting people for the first time with their company, make it easier to just have access to the shift plans, or very simple things that were very difficult and time-consuming before.
Yeah, beautiful story. Torge.
Yes, sounds a little bit cheesy, but we have about more than 250,000 positive feedbacks from our customers because they returned a cup, so they use our product. So as a young company, this is actually for us a huge milestone that people are using us, having an impact on an everyday base. Another one is really that we convinced also universities and big companies already. And we can see that these users at the university, for example, in St. Gallen, they are using kooky also in their private life, also outside of the campus. And that's showing us that we have an impact on the behavior, and it comes into the minds of the students and say, okay, let's make a change. It's so easy. It's as easy as disposables. Then on a personal level, one employee of a huge company in Switzerland, which supported us from the first second, actually got highly promoted in their job. It was her key project, and it was so well seen in her company that she made 2 or 3 steps in one jump. So that's great to see that we have a positive impact also on the people working with us. So they don't get downgraded working with us; they get promoted. That's a very good sign. So on a big scale, but also on a small level, we have positive
I like the fact what gets you all excited is not is both worlds, right? It's the data you see proving that what you're doing is right, but also then you really, and that again, I read those stories about the frontline heroes, giving them a voice and really hearing those stories and not losing touch to the end user, and then even encouraging to call in their power, what they have by using your product. That is really inspiring. This is something where I could, if I didn't have a time limit, go on forever. But as we always have a part of the panelists, and this is what we're going to move on next to, is because we talked about what to figure out in the day-to-day life as a founder and getting to the next stage, getting to the next milestone. But then as you are more successful, there's going to be more challenges coming in you. And this is why we always invite a Google senior executive who has some sort of experience or even hands-on knowledge about this field, where they can then share their perspective, what might come next and after that. So my next guest is Sandra Cettier. She currently leads the Google Cloud marketing for Switzerland and Austria. We call it the Alps region. Prior to that, she was in the Google Ads business, looking after the largest of our clients, helping them to create and strategize and execute their digital market strategy. Her journey doesn't only start in Google with marketing, because prior to that, she was working with one of probably the largest brand houses in the world. It was Procter & Gamble. And so her fun fact, or maybe false fact, is that her brand she was looking after at Procter & Gamble was actually Pampers. And Pampers, even though we know it's a household name here anywhere, her mission was to bring that into other continents such as Africa. And as we heard, as marketeers, it's really important to hear the voice of your customer. Promoting Pampers she had to fly to Africa in all sorts of countries, Nigeria, Ghana, Egypt, and then to really sit with the families and see how diapers are being used. To bring that back to the Pampers strategy and hopefully make it a global product. So hands up who thinks this might be a true statement or something we just made up because no one actually travels that far to sell Pampers. Well, there's actually a lot of trust, and this is true. In fact, Sandra was the manager for the African region at Procter & Gamble. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Sandra Cettier. So welcome, Sandra. As we have said before, you were looking after the largest of all companies on the Google Ads side. You were driving multinational campaigns in a global brand business. So from a marketeer's perspective, what are challenges you have seen we have today, which will still might uphold when they go bigger and when they go more successful from a startup's perspective?
Mm-hmm. That's actually, for me, easy to answer, but hard to do. It's to stay innovative. Because if you think Procter & Gamble 150 years ago were very innovative in creating actually brand management. So it started actually with candles and soaps, and they asked themselves the question, how do we differentiate that? And then, at that time, it was very innovative to actually put a label on something. It was still quite common to buy a bottle of wine or a piece of soap, and it had actually no label on it. It was just wine and soap. So you had to have that idea of putting a brand on it, which is where the name comes from, right? It really comes from branding animals. And the idea was, well, we should also brand our products. So at that time, that was very innovative. Today, that would not be innovative at all. And so later on, a big piece of innovation was to actually invent the soap opera. It's called that way because Procter & Gamble advertised the soap during those soap operas. So Procter & Gamble had a TV production house. So the question was really, how do we communicate that to the consumer and keep the consumer engaged? And then would always show those soap commercials. And that today would also not be innovative anymore. So how do you stay innovative? And of course, if you're a young founder, your idea is based on an innovation, but how do you keep that in the long haul? And I think that is something that with the decade I spent at Procter & Gamble was the biggest struggle.
So marketing as an ambassador for innovation. in the companies, right? So how does that look like with your day-to-day life now? So is that something you have on your focus, saying like we need to show the part of innovation of our business, or even seeing that as a lever of it, or maybe it's just not even on the radar yet?
So innovation from Kooky side is our driving factor. So we are innovating. We're actually asking us day by day. Is it in tech? Is it in product? Is it in marketing? Because we are stepping into a complete new field. So that's why we have to be innovated. And what Andreas earlier said, so don't look at the others. Do your own homework and invent new ways to attract your audience. So it's important. That's why you always have to rethink yourself and put everything together, disassemble everything again. And if you're not innovated, you will actually have no place on the market. So
I'd like to hold that thought for a second, because, you know, Kooky, 14 months young, right? The default is you are the innovator, you are the disruptor by creating this company, right? Has Beekeeper undergone some moments where you are already being disrupted as well by other innovations?
Yeah, I think we have a certain tendency to be too innovative. I think you can also be too innovative because the problem is if you're always ahead of the market, then you're targeting more kind of the early adopters, and you have to kind of cross this chasm to also reach the early majority and majority. And I think sometimes we have to say, okay, slow down, maybe one step back, and then really make sure you're not forgetting about the majority where you're making most of the money. Yeah.
So almost counterintuitive, saying like let's step, because it's in the nature and the DNA of a founder, right? To say what's the next step, what can we do more, but then to come back and say let's focus first.
Yeah. And I think of course you can be innovative when it comes to using channels, new channels, or channels in a different way. But at the same time, with kind of your core offering, you have to also align with your customer.
Yeah. Fintech as a industry, we've learned, isn't even that old yet, right? The term fintech hasn't even been created a couple years back. So you are also by default an innovator in this sense. But what would you say are your main disruptor also from other platforms or other ways of doing trading? Because it's not just the technology, right? As we have heard, it's really the value as an innovation too.
Yeah, I think for us, the big driver is really where we see sustainability and investing going. And so there's a lot that's happening in that space, and right, everybody's offering a sustainable, it seems like everybody's offering a sustainable investing platform. A lot of it is based on ESG, and we're moving past that. We're moving into impact investing. And I think this is where, like, this question of like, how much do you educate the market versus how much do you go after a need? Like, in a way, you have to educate the market, but I always think like, if you have to educate the market, then maybe you're not doing it quite right, because you should just be finding like a customer need and servicing that need, and it should be so obvious that you don't have to educate. But yeah, when it comes to impact investing, it's so new. It's something that, you know, the Bill Gateses of this world have always been able to do. They've always been able to say like, I want to invest in this or that, and then they've had like a family office do that for them. But we do that really at scale, and for thousands of people, and starting at like very low investment amounts. And so that's really where our innovation comes from. And that's where, like, yeah, also I think this duality of like, how much do you educate and how much do you find this natural knack where you just kind of slide in and it becomes obvious to consumers that this is a need that they've always had, and we fulfill that need.
So innovation at scale for the values you want to drive, right? Making like sustainable, impactful investment a household product.
Yeah, and I think you can be innovative in a lot of different areas. So kind of maybe a new pricing model. So really kind of use the piece as a guiding principle where you can be innovative. Maybe you have kind of boring product, but a very innovative product, innovative in pricing. You promote it differently, you use a different distribution channel. So I think it's not just about the product or distribution channel, but all about all the other dimensions as well.
And maybe when you, from one day of the other, have the possibility to tackle whatever 1 billion new customers, I think there are also some question marks how to actually tackle them and how to monetize, how they get monetized, and how can we add added value, and how can this actually comes all together. I think then when you have a huge portfolio of a huge amount of new customers you had never actually targeted before or made visible, then it's really a huge opportunity.
I'd also like to briefly touch on the point of sustainability and responsibility in marketing, because I think that's a very interesting point. And that to me was really a question when I, true fact, right, had those in-home visits in rural Africa, and actually saw that oftentimes buying our product comes really as a trade-off to buying food, for example. And then the question arises, by how much do I push my product, and how responsible is that, and how sustainable is it for that family? And I think as marketeers, we also have a responsibility to see that it's not always, by far not always, about maximizing short-term profit, but about the long haul and all the stakeholders. And so there, for example, it was a fine line to explain what the benefits are of a good nighttime sleep, for example, but by no means to induce fear that if you do not use the Pampers for your child, then something terrible is going to happen to your child, which theoretically could maybe be done in a manipulative way, but it would just not be right. And I'm sure it wouldn't be the right thing for the company and the brand, at least in the mid to long term either. So.
Once again, the responsibility of the marketeers to care about the users, not just for the short-term profit. So this is a lot about what the voice is of marketing, but what about listening from the market, right? Like, what are things which marketeers should pay attention to absorb from the market? We heard several examples before, but maybe, Sandra, you can also give a few examples you've seen, whether working with customers or in your day-to-day life as well. What are things marketeers should care more to listen from? And I think the answer will lead to customer, but what are the things they need to listen from their customers?
Sorry, what we need to, when we need to listen more to customers?
Exactly. So speaking about innovation is really like from inside out, right? We inform the customer, but the same role of marketeers is also to listen to the customers, right? And what are things marketeers should pay attention to, listening to?
Yes. Okay. So I actually think there is the rare occasion where you do create a new category and there is a need to communicate that to the customer. For example, I think the iPhone did that in 2007. No one was waiting for it. I actually remember reading the first article about it, wondering, do I need this? Do I not need this? But it was definitely informative. But that cannot take for a very long time. And I think that wasn't the case. The consumer picked up very quickly on the product, but it was creating a new category. And Procter & Gamble did that for many times, creating an entirely new category. And so cloud, for example, did that too, right? We created a new category. We weren't exactly the first ones on the market, but it's still a fairly new category and it needs some explaining. But very quickly, you have to move to listening to the customer. And I think that is something that as humans, we oftentimes should do more. And by that, I mean active listening, where you do not listen and already think of your response while listening, but really listen to understand. And consumers really appreciate that. And I think it can have very different formats. It can be an interview, it can be tests, it can be trials. It really depends on your product. But I really liked what you said before. You had 250,000 pieces of feedback. That's the consumers communicating with you. Right? So there's so many ways of listening.
Speaking of listening, we would like to also hear your voice and what you have to say as well, because as you remember, at the beginning, we showed you this QR code. It has always been on the top right. So we will now switch over to the questions you have submitted as well, because exactly that we want to do. We want to listen what your questions might be. So I will quickly ask the tech team to switch over to the questions you have submitted. And we're going to look into what is in the Mentimeter now, and we will pick a couple of questions. We won't usually have time for all of them, but really the hottest and burning one here. So we're just going to wait a few seconds before we switch the screens and see then what questions we do have. So just checking with the tech team if we can switch it. There we go. I am not sure if we... Good. I mean, if we have no questions, then let's go to the drink.
Yes, we were so clear. Right?
That was clear. No questions asked. There are some questions there. Well, it's good we have smartphones. Thank you very much. I love when audiences are with us. So, if you don't mind, it was not scripted. We see it's a guest here. Wonderful. So I'm just going to read them off here on your phone. And I promise I won't read you a personal message here too, like if they pop up. What's for dinner? So, what is the cheapest and most effective thing you did to grow is the first question. With 7 upvotes, so obviously a lot of people care about that too.
I'm happy to start. So one of the most effective things that we do is our webinars and events and things like that, and especially webinars. There's a lot of interest in finance and a lot of people know that they have to deal with it, but that they don't know too much about it. And so we do a lot of generic knowledge-based webinars around investing in general, but also around sustainable investing and impact investing and what that means. And we can get as much as like 500 people to a webinar. So that costs nothing, right? So that's definitely the cheapest and best thing that we do.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in product-led growth. And what we did at Beekeeper is, for example, we added a small sign-up link with a very simple form to our mobile app. And just this link produced, I think, the same amount of leads in 1 month that we got through Google. So almost for no money and a lot of leads. Yeah.
And with us, it's just going to universities. Customer acquisition costs are so low because you're reaching to an awesome audience at the which likes sustainability, who likes these kind of things, and that's why going to universities is for us always a good thing.
That's a hard one for me.
You're biased for sure.
I would say the most important moment is to drive the first trial and to think about how do I do that most effectively. I think the biggest difference is between never having tried kooky and having tried it for the first time, or and that holds true for any company. That's the biggest step. And how do you make that the most effective?
We're going to pick one more question, and for those who are in Mentimeter, I can really tell it actually works. So there are some questions here. We're going to pick one last one. So how many different customer persona do you have mapped out? And maybe it comes with the side question, how do you even get started to know your customer personas?
Okay, nobody's angling for this question, so I'm happy to get started. So we have 2 different personas mapped out. They're based on customer research that we did, and frankly, they should probably be overhauled sometime soon. So I think they're useful to some extent, but I think there's 100%. I think they're useful and they're very, very good to have. I think that there's also a wealth of other data, though, to consider. And sometimes, having the persona is great, but then figuring out how to target and segment with that persona gets really, really difficult. And I think that sometimes, it's nice to know who that persona is and target them, but then how do you effectively segment against them? That's where it really becomes more difficult.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep it simple. Now with 200 people, you have to have something that you can share, not just within the marketing team. And I think for us at the moment, it's even more important to think about certain segments we want to target as kind of the first dimension, and then certain if they are quite advanced when it comes to implementing digital technologies, so more kind of these things. But at the moment, we're not really leveraging a clear persona profile.
Yeah, and we heard it earlier before. So of course, at the beginning we're just early adopters, but then now our personas is really the mobile or the mobility generation. Everybody who's going from A to B, and I think we are also putting together our persona when it comes to daily behavior. So what are the needs? So even though seasonality is a driving factor, not everybody is drinking coffee. They would like to have something different in summer. So it's actually changing even when it comes to certain seasonalities. Yes.
And I would actually like to challenge whether you need a persona. And I think in many cases we don't. And again, at Procter & Gamble, we always had it, and we're very clear and targeted about the persona, but it's very limited. And you always limit yourself as soon as you define a persona. So for example, Procter & Gamble, it was 22 to 39 years old, female with certain interests and a certain income. And then you go into the marketing mix, and with what message do I reach her? But it's so limiting, right? Who says it's not dad who buys the Pampers? Who says it's not the girlfriend who buys the Gillette razors, for example? And that, I have to say, I really liked about Google when I made the transition from Procter & Gamble to Google, because Google works based on signals in ads. Now we're talking about ads, right? So what are your interests without discrimination of those demographic factors that usually define personas? So my first question would always be, do you need it at all? Or can you focus your marketing much more on interests?
Yeah, what we're also leveraging now more and more are the jobs to be done as a framework, because it's really more focused on what are these people trying to achieve. And it might be someone in HR and comms and operations, and at the end they want to achieve the same thing. So we build our product messaging more around the jobs to be done.
And that's why I like your idea, because we are tackling the mobile society, and that's why we have a huge opportunity there.
It's everyone.
So persona is evolving, it's changing based on seasonality also, could be, and it might not even be needed in the future, because again, we as individuals, as we sit here in this room, expect to receive messages based on who we are and not based on a few KPIs. And to close off with an anecdote, I heard Gen Z is the last generation which is being grouped as one category globally, and the generations after will see different subgroups because of their individuality. So this is an anecdote I like to close off with. As you can see, the questions keep coming in. So I encourage you to ask those questions later on in the drinks and food we will have prepared for outside. But first and foremost, ladies and gentlemen, please give a round of a big applause to our panelists today. So I would like now to ask you to take a seat back, because this is the end of the official show. What you will know or have known from the founder story in all the previous sessions. And in the same time, I will ask you, our volunteers, to come on stage to help us clean up a little bit, because as I said, we're up for a treat today. And now I want you to calm down a little bit. All the questions you have, keep them in mind, park them a little bit, because we're going to continue later on. And for now, we want to just take a moment to say thank you, because again, it has been an amazing year, a wonderful journey, a lot of stories we have heard, you all have shared with us. And we want to thank you for your vulnerabilities, your time, because as founders, time is so essential to build your mission, and yet you took your time to be here today. But I'm not the only one who wants to thank you, so please welcome on stage everyone, the founder story team, Sarah, Silvana, and Kevin.
So we as well, as you can see, have a founder team behind this initiative. And we have one more guest we want to invite here today on stage. Some of you might know her from a previous episode. She is the head of corporate sales in Google Cloud, responsible for Austria and Switzerland. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage Bianca End.
Ready? Is this on? Yes, it is. Thank you. So actually, you see 4 founders here as well. And as it is our last episode for this year, I thought there is a little bit of a surprise. They're smiling because they don't know. That's actually quite cute as well. So when they came up to me about 7 months ago, they said, we have this idea. And you know, it almost costs nothing but a lot of food and stuff, but we just wanted to really try it out. I was more downgrading it a little, to be honest. And they might remember that very well as well. Because I said, yeah, why don't you just find out first what are the different topics your founders want to talk about? And then they did those very famous 12 lunches with founders to understand what are the patterns, what are the topics, and you understand that now as superpowers that you basically are interested in. And from that, this whole community of 12 grew up to over 200, so we are over 200 tonight. So thank you very much for coming, first of all, to just keep this a growing, a very lively community. Give us the feedback always in the session later on. But now, for me, it is really time to say thank you to our 4 founders of the founder story that are basically Hans, Kevin, Silvana, and Sarah. So thank you very, very much. And you need to grab one each here.
We did not
so they will
that.
be very easy to find, by the way, tonight. So if you have some kind of comment, their task is to carry it around all night. Really? I think they're going to enjoy it very much. So thank you very, very much. It was super cool. Thank you. By the way, I brought one little additional surprise with me as well. So there is one additional, not a real founder, but a founder that did send a video message. It is the actually 8th employee of a company. The company grew from those 8 employees in 1999 up to 183,000 now. And he has provided special greetings to us, being Swiss himself, and I'd like to ask our technical friends up there to roll the video before I say thank you very much, and keep it rolling.
So, how great was this? Hearing from the 8th Googler that he's a supporter of our community, of the founder story. And yeah, since we're at Google, we love to share a bit of our culture as well, and we do love a good game. So for the next couple of minutes, can you have your phone out? And actually, before we start, can we have a show of hands? Who has played Kahoot before? Okay, wow. Have you all been to Google before? Could I ask the tech team to switch to the game, please? So if you don't already know, you can scan either the QR code or you can go to kahoot.it and use the PIN number. Give you a few moments to do that. In the meantime, I'll give you a bit of context as well on the questions that you can expect today. You probably saw that we do a few snippets of every episode, and that kind of summarizes the best moments. There'll be a few questions on these. It'll be really about allocating a snippet to the episode.
And for those who haven't played Kahoot so far, not only the correct answer matters, but also speed. So try to be not only correct, but also fast.
And I heard there will be prizes at the end for the winners. Let's give it another 15 seconds. Okay, 111 people. 12. Okay, at 15, we're gonna start the game. Okay, tech team, I think we can start the game.
So let's start with the first warm-up question. This shouldn't be too hard. And it is, what percentage of people in Switzerland have internet access according to 2021 data? What do you think? I hope all of you here do have internet access. So let's see who is. Iris is so far number one. Let's go on to the next question.
So before Google was called Google, what was it called?
I found out last week.
Oh, sorry, that was too quick. But actually, the other names were not random. PageRank was the algorithm behind it, and backlinks was what it was behind the algorithm, the technology behind it. So David is doing pretty well.
Next one. How many companies were founded in Switzerland in 2021? Maybe one of yours is part of this number. All right, most of you guessed it right. Let's see who is on the top 3 podium. Moritz. I feel I know who it is.
So before we go to the next question, there will be a little extract. It's a video. You can also play it on your phone, but you're going to lose some time on that. So if you look at the screen, then you allocate it to the right session. So, confidence in everything. Which session was that?
It's probably confidence is everything. Everybody is good if he or she can prepare.
Oh, most of you got this one right. And Moritz is still in the lead.
Having a joint purpose is the most important pillar of the culture. In which session did Simon said that? Yeah, unfortunately the sound doesn't seem to be working, but he's basically saying that sentence in the video. Most gets it right. People session. I hope you all were there. Moritz still leading, but Marie taking over.
I'm not looking for employees. I'm looking for purpose companions. When did Angela say this?
I'm not looking for employees. I'm looking for purpose companions.
I see Angela in the room.
Overwhelming correctly. So, Moritz, people are catching up to you, huh?
Next one. With capital comes speed. If you build everything yourself, you will be too slow. When did Andreas say that? Which session was it?
If you build everything yourself, you're just going to be too slow.
Ooh, 80 people guessed it right. Oh, Moritz, sorry. Stefan is now number 1.
You have to get the MVP out, iterating quickly while knowing we really need to fix that later. When did Danielle say that?
On getting an MVP out, getting this feedback, iterating quickly, while knowing in the back of your head, like, yeah, crap, we really need to fix that later.
Wow, nearly perfect score there.
Next one. The more calls you do, the more appointments you get. It is very easy. In which session did Sabrina say that? It's not too long
As
ago.
more calls you do, as more appointments you get. So it's very easy. If you
Not bad. Sales, exactly. Stefan still leading.
We're all human. We're all flawed and imperfect. And this comes up when we work together. When did Melanie say that? That was really recently, actually.
Perfect. And this comes up when you work together.
Seems everybody was there last month, huh? Geraldine coming in second place.
How much did VCs invest in Swiss startups in the first 6 months of 2022? I hope some of you benefited from that. I said someone saying yes in this corner. Stefan still leading, with Thomas taking over. Let's see about the last question.
So, last question. Which is the largest VC investment in the first half of 2022 in Switzerland? It's a better distribution. Actually, all the other numbers are not random. They're the next highest investments from the first half of 2022. So let's see. How is the podium looking?
Number 3, Thomas.
And number 2, GRH.
No.
Congrats, congrats. Could we have a show of hands, Thomas and GRH? Perfect. We have Sarah that is just right there. She'll have a little gift for you. And now for Stefan, could we ask you to join us on stage?
Where, Stefan? Oh. Congratulations, Stefan. Thank you. You not only won a box of chocolate, but something else we will disclose in a bit. But maybe you can first introduce yourself and say for which company you work.
Yeah, my name is Stefan, as you obviously know. I work for GrowThrust. We're developing an assessment for startups to compare each other and learn from each other. Have a peer learning approach which is data-driven, which kind of matches Google's visions.
And how did you hear about the founder story?
Yeah, Sabrina Gennardi, which we just saw. I met her and I saw on Silvana's profile the Google founder story. So I asked her how she got here, and then I talked to Hans, and now I'm here.
Okay, so we have a little surprise for you. We would love to have you or somebody from your organization join us as a panelist next year.
Oh, cool. Yeah, cool.
Great to hear. Thank you. Yeah. We can come up here. Yeah.
We'll discuss the details now.
For the gift.
Wow. So what a fantastic game. I really love Kahoot. I'm always there. I try to not interfere too much into the game because I knew the answers already. But again, congratulations, Stefan, to being our first panelist in the next year Founder Story. So here it is. It's official. We're going to come back next year for season number 2 of the Founder Story. Bigger, more topics, more people, and definitely more stories. So very, very excited to see you next year. So with this slide, sadly, for those who know what's going to come now, it means it's going to come to an end, it's going to come to a close. And we ask you one more time to scan this QR code, because when we discussed earlier today, we figured and realized that this is probably one of the most important slides we have ever shown throughout the whole Founder Story. Because it was your feedback over sessions after sessions after sessions you've given us, how to improve the styles, how to improve the topics, who else to get on stage, what topics to be covered, how do we improve on our food and snacks and so on. Every feedback you did, you didn't hold back to give us that, and we thank you so much, and we ask you to scan one more time. And while you're scanning that and filling out the feedback form, you will see there's one more question we have put in, because not only do we want Stefan on stage next year, we want all of you to tell us who should be on stage. And while you're going to be submitting that, and we go into the planning mode now over the holiday season, we will then reach out to those founders. Founders you maybe know in your network, maybe you've seen on stage, maybe you just hear about them a lot and you think they're great people and they deserve a seat at the Founder Story. So please submit their names and we will reach out to them and ask if they want to be participating. That, because once again, it is a community shaped by you. And before we're going to go out later on, the doors will open in any minute. You will have colleagues who will give you a colorful dot based on the superpower. Because today we not only talked about 3 people's superpower, 4 people's superpower in marketing, but we will talk about and hopefully want to hear more about your superpower as well, whether you're a product founder, a sales founder, a funding, or a people founder. We want to know your superpower so that you can connect with others people and maybe find similar minds, as well as people who might help you with something you struggle on. And before we're really going to close off, we have one more surprise for you. As we all come together with our superpowers in everyday life, in Google as well as outside, we also have superpowers in our private life. And when that comes together at Google, we find a lot of like-minded Googlers who find same interest. And the next group we're going to invite them on stage has the superpower of singing. And in fact, they're going to hold a concert tonight here in this very room for their friends and family. But as a little gift, they have agreed to give us one song before we're going to then welcome you out to our drinks. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome on stage the Google Choir. Hello, everyone. I hope you had a great event. We are the Google Choir. We're a number of Googlers and friends and family who like to sing. What a wonderful gift. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, big round of applause to Google Choir, please. That was it? Ladies and gentlemen, no. Thank you very much. It was a wonderful gift. Again, not obvious that we come together for such purposes with so much time invested. And now the doors will open. Again, our volunteers will stand at the door. Grab your superpower dot, but most importantly, grab your fellows, grab other founders, have good conversation, and see you next year. Thank you very much.
Der Place ist jetzt noch drin. Das sind noch Plätze. 35.
Nein.